So today we are going to discuss dynamic stability of glenohumeral joint. So here we will be discussing how the glenohumeral joint is stabilized when we are performing any activities or movement in the shoulder joint. So this topic we will be discussing under two headings. One is what is the role of deltoid muscle in stabilizing the glenohumeral joint, and next is what is the role of rotator cuff muscle in stabilizing the glenohumeral joint. So first we will discuss what is the role of deltoid muscle. So this is, imagine this is the humerus here, and this is deltoid muscle. This is anterior deltoid, and this is middle deltoid, and this is posterior deltoid. So I have drawn this image from the lateral view. Clear? So this is the line of gravity of anterior deltoid muscle, that is line of force. Clear? And this is the line of force of the posterior deltoid, and this one is the line of force of the middle deltoid. When we take the average, or when we take the resultant vector of all these three deltoid, then the resultant vector will be parallel to the middle deltoid. Okay, this is action line of anterior deltoid, line of force of anterior deltoid, middle deltoid and posterior deltoid. When we take an average, or when we take the resultant vector of all these three deltoid component, we will get a resultant component parallel, resultant force parallel to the middle deltoid. So this is lateral view. Here, if we take the AP view, or so this is an AP view. Clear? Imagine this is the humerus. Clear? And this is glenoid cavity. The line of, when you see the line of force of deltoid muscle in the anterior direction, so it will be the direction of the resultant force vector will be in this direction. Clear? So this is the resultant force vector of the deltoid muscle. So before understanding the vector of the deltoid muscle, I would like to explain one example. That is, imagine you take a block. Clear? You take a block, and if this block is pulled by the force A, clear? This is a force applied in this direction A, and this is the force applied by another person, or force B. Clear? If both the forces A and B are equal, clear? So the object or the box, clear, will move in this direction. Clear? That is, if A is equal to B, the force A and the force B, if it is equal, then the direction will be, the direction of movement of this particular block will be in the direction C. Clear? And suppose, imagine second example, if the force A is lesser than B. Clear? If the force A is lesser than B, then the direction of the movement of this block will be closer to the force A, direction A. Clear? So this happens when B is greater than A. Clear? And third example is, imagine if the A is greater than B. Suppose once the force A is greater than B, then the block will move towards the direction of pull, that is A. Clear? So the block will move in this direction. This happens when A force is greater than B force. So now in this example, so we are discussing the role of deltoid muscle in glenohumeral stability, or glenohumeral joint stability. So this, the one which I had drawn in red color, clear? This is the resultant vector of deltoid muscle. It is resultant vector of deltoid muscle when you take all the force vector of the deltoid, anterior, middle and posterior. Clear? This is AP view. In AP view, so it is parallel to the middle deltoid. Clear? So now this force, now we are dividing the resultant vector of the deltoid into two components. Clear? One is Fy, and other is Fx. That is, we are dividing the resultant force vector of deltoid into two components. One force is parallel to the long axis of humerus and other force is perpendicular to the long axis of the humerus. Clear? Fy is the perpendicular component. You can see here the Fy is drawn perpendicular to the long axis of the humerus, and Fx I had drawn parallel to the long axis of the humerus. So Fy component, any force which is applied perpendicular to the long axis of the bone will result in rotation. That is, imagine this is a lever, and here is the axis. So if you are applying the force perpendicular, if the lever is moving at this point, clear, and if the force is applied perpendicular to the lever, then it will rotate the lever in this direction. Clear? If you are applying force perpendicular to the lever in this direction, then it will rotate the lever in another direction. That is, if any force which is applied perpendicular to the long axis of the bone is called as rotational force. Clear? So here in this example, Fy is the force applied perpendicular to the long axis of the bone. So Fy component is called as the rotational component. In this example, what is rotation? Rotation is the abduction of the humerus. That is, if the force is applied in this direction, it will result in abduction of the humerus. So what is other force? The other force is Fx. Clear? Fx. The force, if any force is applied parallel to the humerus, it will translate or it will slide the humerus in superior direction. So Fx component is called as a translatory force. Translatory force because it translates the humerus in the superior direction. So Fx will translate, or you may call it as a shearing force, translating force or shearing force, and Fy is rotatory force. So here we can see that the direction of the resultant force of the deltoid, this force, it is closer to the Fx component. Clear? So which means, clear, I'll explain again. Suppose if the resultant vector is, in case if it is in this direction, then both the Fy component and Fx component will be equal. Clear? The example which I had given previously. But here the force is closer to the Fx component. If the resultant force vector is closer to the Fx component, which clearly indicates that Fx is greater than Fy. Clear? Because the resultant vector is closer to the Fx component, which means Fx should be higher, or the force vector of the translatory force should be higher than the rotational force. So in this example, the Fx is greater, that is translatory force is greater when compared to the rotatory force. That is, if the deltoid muscle is contracting alone, then little force is utilized for the rotation of the deltoid. That is, little force is utilized or used to abduct the shoulder joint. So greater part of the force is used in translation. That is, if the deltoid muscle is contracting alone, then it will translate the humerus and it will get impinged or it will get hit with the acromion arch. Clear? Coracoacromial arch. So now this Fx component should be opposed. Clear? This Fx component should be opposed so that the rotatory component of the deltoid can abduct the humerus. Again I will repeat. So this Fx component or the Fx force of the deltoid, this is Fx force which is greater, and this is Fy which is lesser. Clear? So less amount of force when the deltoid is contracting alone, less force is used to abduct the shoulder or to rotate the glenohumeral joint, and greater force is used to translate the humeral joint, which will result in impingement. So this Fx force has to be it should be resisted. It should be resisted. So some force should be applied in opposite direction, or Fx force should be neutralized, or equilibrium should be achieved. That is, then only the rotatory component or the Fy component can abduct the glenohumeral joint. So what is this force? So this is called as a negative translatory force. Clear? This is positive. So positive translatory force is created by the deltoid muscle, which translates the humerus in the superior direction. So some other force, that is negative translatory force, should be applied in opposite direction to achieve the equilibrium. When this force is in equilibrium, then the rotatory component can easily abduct the glenohumeral joint. So from where this negative translatory force will present? How we will get this negative translatory force? So now this is one part. Now we will discuss the rotation, the role of rotator muscle, role of rotator cuff muscle in stabilizing the glenohumeral joint. Till now we have discussed role of deltoid muscle in stabilizing the glenohumeral joint. Now we are going to discuss the role of rotator cuff muscle in stabilizing the glenohumeral joint. So here in this diagram you can see the four line of force. Clear? One is this topmost force is, it is the force of supraspinatus, line of force of supraspinatus muscle, and this second one is infraspinatus, line of force of infraspinatus, and third one is line of force of teres minor. Clear? Supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor. And what is other fourth forces? So all these three forces, one force is directed superiorly, that is line of force of supraspinatus is directed superiorly, and the line of force of infraspinatus and teres minor, it is directed posteriorly, and the fourth one, that is I had shown in the dotted line, that is line of force of subscapularis muscle. Subscapularis muscles, you know, it is anterior, and it is on the costal surface. Origin is in the costal surface of the scapula, and insertion is in the lesser tubercle. Clear? And which is the internal rotator. Subscapularis is the internal rotators, and infraspinatus and teres minor is the external rotator. So these are the line of force taken individually. Clear? So when we take the here this we will be studying under two part, that is supraspinatus supraspinatus muscle line of force we will study separately. It is one group, and other three muscles, that is you call it as an ITS, that is infraspinatus, teres minor and subscapularis muscles. So these three muscles, they form a single group. When you take that is infraspinatus is this one, clear, infraspinatus and teres minor and subscapularis. So these three muscles, when you take the resultant force vector of these three muscles, then this will be the resultant force of ITS, that is infraspinatus, teres minor and subscapularis muscle. So this line of force, now I am dividing this force into two components. Clear? One is parallel component and perpendicular component. One force vector I am drawing parallel to, I am resolving this ITS into two components. One is parallel to humerus and other one is perpendicular to the humerus, long axis of humerus. If the force which is parallel to the long axis of the humerus will translate the humerus. The force which is perpendicular to the long axis of the humerus will rotate the humerus. So here in this example, this one is Fy. Clear? What is Fy? Fy is perpendicular. It is perpendicular to the long axis of the humerus, which creates a rotatory force. And another one is this component is Fx. So this component is parallel to the long axis of the humerus. So this will translate the humerus. But now this translation is in opposite direction, that is inferior translation. So what does this force does when we are moving the humerus? Clear? So already we have discussed the line of force of this will be the line of resultant force of deltoid muscle. Clear? Sorry. This will be the line of force of deltoid, and the rotatory component is less and the translatory component is larger when compared to rotatory component. This component, Fx component of the deltoid, superior translatory component of the deltoid should be opposed. Clear? So this is achieved by the Fx component of the rotation. That is, when you see the direction of this Fx component, the direction of the Fx component is opposite to the Fx component of the deltoid muscles. So when the deltoid muscle, when the rotator cuff muscle is contracting, the Fx component will oppose or will neutralize the Fx component of the deltoid, and so this force will neutralize this force, and now the deltoid muscle, that is the Fy component of the deltoid, will help in rotating the humerus, that is it will help in abduction of the humerus. So that is when you see the component, when you see the Fy component, the direction of the Fy component is towards the glenoid cavity. Clear? Towards the glenoid cavity. So the Fy component, yes, it rotates the humerus, at the same time it stabilizes the humerus or it fixes the humerus along with the glenoid cavity. So Fy component not only rotates the glenohumeral joint, it also stabilizes the glenohumeral joint. So what is the function of Fx? So Fx is it neutralizes, or this is called as a negative translatory force. The translatory force of the rotator component is called as a negative translatory force, which opposes the superior translatory component of the deltoid, and the humerus is stabilized at the glenohumeral joint. Now the smaller Fy component of the deltoid will help in abducting the humerus. So what is the conclusion? The conclusion is one more point I left. Here I have told the rotator cuff muscles this should be studied under two groups. One is FITS and other is supraspinatus muscle. This is supraspinatus muscle. The supraspinatus muscle this is the line of force of the supraspinatus muscle. So the line of force of supraspinatus muscle, it does not helps in stabilizing the glenohumeral joint. When you see the resultant force of the ITS, it is directed downwards. Clear? Or the Fy component, it stabilizes the glenohumeral joint. So here, what is the Fy component? This is Fx component and this is Fy component. Clear? So what is Fx component? Fx component is the translatory component, or in other words, the translatory component of Fx, it is in line with the translatory component of the deltoid muscle. Clear? So it does not help in stabilizing the joint. Supraspinatus muscle, it does not help in stabilizing the glenohumeral joint, because the Fx component is in line with the Fx component of the deltoid. Clear? So the Fy component, it helps in stabilizing the glenohumeral joint. At the same time, it helps in rotation of the glenohumeral joint. So what is the conclusion? The conclusion is if the rotator cuff muscle is weak, then the deltoid muscle cannot able to do the rotation properly, or the deltoid muscle cannot abduct the glenohumeral joint properly, because again I'll repeat the sentence. If the rotator cuff muscles, normally the rotator cuff muscle and the deltoid muscle should work in synergistically. That is, it should work in together. Clear? If the deltoid muscle is strong and the rotator cuff muscle is weak, then what happens? It will result in superior translation of the. I'll draw both the forces in a single diagram, then it will be easy to understand. So now I will imagine this is the humerus. Clear? And I'll draw I'll combine this diagram and this diagram. Clear? So this one is resultant force vector of deltoid. This one is resultant force vector of deltoid, and this is Fy component, and this is Fx component. Clear? So now this is the resultant force vector of the deltoid. Now I will draw the resultant force vector of the ITS. This is Fy and this one is Fx. So if imagine the rotator cuff muscle is weak, then because if deltoid muscle is contracting alone, or if the deltoid muscle is strong than the rotator cuff muscle, what will happen? Instead of rotation, the translation will occur more. That is, translation will occur more and rotation will occur less. If the rotator muscle is strong enough to oppose the Fx component of the deltoid, so what is the function of the rotator cuff muscle? It stabilizes, this is glenoid cavity, it stabilizes the glenoid cavity, it stabilizes the humerus with the glenoid cavity and keeps it stable, so that, and the Fx component will oppose the Fx component of the deltoid, and both the forces are stabilized, Now this component will do the abduction properly. So if the rotator cuff muscle is weak, if the ITS muscle is weak, then the translation will be more and the rotation will be less. It will result in impingement of the supraspinatus muscle with the coracoacromial arch. So the rotator cuff muscle should be equal, or the rotator muscle should be equal in strength with the deltoid muscle, so that during the abduction process, the glenoid cavity, the humerus can be stabilized with the glenoid cavity. So this is the role of role of dynamic stability. That is the role of rotator cuff muscle and the role of the deltoid muscle in the stabilizing the glenohumeral joint. Thank you.